This is NFA Talk, the show that talks about guns and gun rights, keeping you up to date with what's currently going on, from the newest guns, promotions, and events, plus how we're lobbying for your rights.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Nathaniel Milger, Social Media Coordinator with Canada's National Firearms Association. With me tonight is our Alberta Director, Dwayne Gorniak, and the infamous Black Hats. Hi, guys. How are you doing?
Great.
Good. Before we get started, I just have to go through some promotional materials here, and we'll be right back with you.
The annual Big Freaking Gun giveaway, the Grey Guardian. With every $50 donation to Canada's National Firearms Association, you receive a chance to win this top-tier Cadex Defense R7 rifle, complete with loopholed scope. Plus, this year we are including a Level 1 precision rifle course at legendary Canadian sniper Rob Furlong's Marksmanship Academy in beautiful Alberta. This 3-day course is taught by an excellent team of experienced veteran instructors that will hone your marksmanship skills to a whole new level and is an opportunity not to be missed. Get those donations in now for your chance to win. Our fall t-shirt campaign is in full swing. With the purchase of any t-shirt, you are entered to win a beautiful Beretta 1301 Tactical Marine 12-gauge shotgun. Promotion ends soon, so visit our online store and grab a shirt today.
All right, with that out of the way, you guys are making some serious waves in the political community out here in Alberta, and even this morning I saw on Radio Quebec, they were talking about you guys, CBC Radio Quebec. It's a whole new scenario here. So if I can just pass it off to you, Mitch, who are you guys? Tell me who you guys are.
Tell us who we are. Okay, so we're both tied up with constituency associations in Alberta. We're part of the UCP party. So how this started was Brooks Medicine Hat, CA, and Bonnyville Coal Lake, CA, put together a resolution to go to the AGM. And the resolution said that we would like to revisit the Bill of Rights and a constitutional conference possibly in the future for Alberta. So since there was 2 boards that were putting this forward, we discussed it. I had other resolutions going in from my board, and Scott and I came to the conclusion that they would be best represented to do it. So they basically built the new Bill of Rights. These gentlemen have done all the work, literally done all the work. And my job has been to promote it in political circles and to get it to the right places so that we could get to this point today.
Who is each one of your group right now that we have on here, as well as ones that were unable to make this podcast? Okay,
so I'll let them introduce themselves. Go ahead, LaVar.
Okay, thank you. LaVar Payne. I'm a former member of Parliament from 2008 to 15 under Harper, and a long-time Alberta resident and proponent of gun rights. And also I am on Danielle Smith's CA board, as well as Justin Wright's CA board. And as Mitch said, we got together and started to put together all of this package of rights and freedoms.
Hi, I'm LaVar's son, in case you didn't guess. So I'm very interested in politics. Obviously, he was political all throughout my life. Former power engineer. I'm a range safety officer and obviously a firearms enthusiast from Medicine Hat.
Right on. Ian?
I'm a member of the Cyprus Medicine Hat board, which is Justin Wright as the director of policy. I'm also outside of the constituency director for Brooks Medicine Hat. And I've been shooting IPSC practical handgun since '92. I was a firearms PAL instructor since '94. I've been a match director, and I got heavily involved in this whole Bill of Rights, and not only just because of the firearms issue. It was time for this province to wake up and take a stance against any incursion by the federal government. I mean, that's why we have 22 rights. The firearms is just one of them. I mean, firearms, property rights, bodily autonomy, parental rights. It's time for Alberta to start taking care of itself.
And you said something really, really interesting. Actually, we had Rick Ickersich, the president, on for a little bit just before we decided to fire this up. You said something really interesting to him. And you said you've been an NFA member since what year did you say?
92.
There you go. There you go. That's the type of dedication we like to see. Wow. That's phenomenal. That's awesome. So that being said, now that we have all of your information, I'm going to pass it off to Dwayne. Dwayne, go for it.
Okay, so I guess we've got a lot of questions for you guys tonight. And the whole goal of this NFA talk tonight is to really get you guys, you know, out there in the public a little bit more, talking about yourselves, so that our members and Albertans especially get to know a lot more about you. But this has gotten so big that Canadians right across the country into Ontario on our YouTube videos are commenting on you guys, and, you know, literally saying amazing job, and they wish that other provinces would follow suit with you. So people are really paying attention to you across the country. Our social media is blowing up about it. So the biggest questions I guess I have for you guys is, it sounds like you want to bring in amendments to the Bill of Rights. And from what I understand, that includes property rights and gun rights in this, in Alberta. And I guess talk a little bit about the legalities and how you introduce that, go from there. And then later on, we'll have some more questions for you guys.
It might be a question. It may be a question of semantics, but our Bill of Rights, Freedoms, and Responsibilities, if you actually read it, is a Bill of Freedoms. We have the freedom to enjoy property, own it, sell it, trade it, do whatever, and only give it up with due process and compensation. Same as we have the freedom to own firearms. It's not a right. We want the freedom. You can't take freedom away, but those characters on the Ottawa River can certainly take your rights away.
The Laurentian elites. There's an urging to the UCP membership of Alberta. What is that? What is it that we have to do right now? I mean, I know what it is, but I'm going to give the floor to you guys. What is the issue right now? Why is it that we have to get everybody to this AGM here on November 1st and 2nd?
So the reason we have to get everybody to the AGM is so we can make sure that this passes. So the Premier's endorsing this bill. She's introduced it, and she's the only actually leader in North America or anywhere that's acknowledging gun rights. So what we'd like to do is we'd like to set a precedent and get the rest of Canada going. But first and foremost, we want to make sure that Alberta preserves its gun freedoms. And the Premier is committed to that. So she's committed to doing that already. She's going to table it before the AGM. So gun owners have to get involved with their politics. Apathy is what got us here. Apathy is the reason that the federal government is taking our gun rights away and consciously doing it. So what we need to do is we need to show up. Unfortunately, we no longer have the luxury of not showing up. So there's 365,000 PALs in Alberta. We'd like 1% of that group to come to this AGM, wear a black hat in support of the Alberta Bill of Rights, and vote in favor of the Alberta Bill of Rights. There's lots of work going on in the background, and has been a ton of work to get us to this point. So that now we need your support. Now we need numbers. What most people miss, and what I did not understand until I got involved with politics, which was a very short time ago, just 3 years ago, is that numbers rule. If people show up in numbers, they can basically make a big difference. And I think this is a very powerful group. This could be one of the most powerful political voices in the province and literally in the country. There's 2.4 million gun owners in Canada. And, you know, we all have the same interests. And if we all get in a room, we all want basically the same things. But in order for that to happen, we can no longer take it for granted that someone else is going to do the work. We have to show up to the AGM and get that going. Today, I offered my gun range here today, 100 tickets at $100 a piece. So that would mean that we would cover cost for half, and we would provide the bus to send them to the AGM. Now we're hoping that we can get 100 people from a gun club of 400 to go to the AGM, which is one whole day, but that's all it is one whole day. We could make a tremendous amount of difference if we commit to one day in this year, 2024, to get our gun rights. That's the long and the short of it.
Well, in the NFA, we've fully, wholeheartedly been watching you from the beginning there, from the first time that you guys appeared in the CBC. I actually had a friend at that event that saw that. He called me right away, said, you got to talk to these guys. They're getting it added. They're going to make waves here, so get on it right away. As we're National Firearms Association, we actually have to worry about other Canadians, and very often we are being told by people online, you know, oh, you only care about Alberta. You're only worrying about Alberta right now. All this Alberta. But and most of it, I hate to say, is from Ontario. And it's like, Ontario, do it too. BC, do it too. Get involved. Get this to happen in your own jurisdictions. I'm sorry Alberta's leading the way here, but man, if Alberta can do this, then that being said, I want to talk about jurisdictions. We always hear that this is a federal scenario. And I'm just going to pull up a video of Danielle Smith. She actually appeared on Western Standard. I believe it was yesterday or the day before. And she actually has some really interesting things to say. This is only a minute long, but it'll lead us to the conversation, because a lot of people are saying, we can't do this. As Albertans, we cannot do this.
Well, talk to us a little bit about the firearms owners. Obviously, that's a matter of huge concern in Alberta.
Yeah. Well, I think people, and maybe I'm not sure why it was ever neglected in the discussion of previous bills of rights. Maybe it was because it was such a given that our hunters and our ranchers and our farmers and our sport shooters had such legacy rights to be able to legally own firearms and use them responsibly, that no one could imagine a future government trying to take away those rights. But sure enough, I think throughout the 90s and 2000s and even today, we continue to see governments attack the right of lawful firearms owners to be able to use, enjoy, and own their firearms. So that's one of the provisions that we'll be putting into the Bill of Rights, is just recognizing that right, hopefully as a bit of a shield against the federal government. I mean, this is where constitutional rights end up bumping up against each other. We believe we've got the right to protect the private property rights of our citizens. The federal government has been taking aggressive action to make legal firearms owners criminals just by the stroke of a pen. And I'm prepared to put a line in the sand and fight that out in the courts, because I think that what the federal government should be focused on is the criminal use of firearms. They should be focused on gun smuggling. They should be focusing on gangs. They should be focusing on the commission of a crime using a firearm. They should not be going after the law-abiding citizens. Many Albertans are law-abiding firearms owners. So that's one of the reasons why we're putting that in the legislation.
Well, the Premier is a very wise, experienced politician. She's recognized that we have a constitution, and even though it's not the greatest constitution, there are some things in it that protect us. And I would encourage anybody who has the opportunity to watch the November 17th, 2022 interview that she had with Dr. Peterson. And I'll just give a quote here from her. Ottawa will always try to take more money, more power, more decision-making from the provincial level. So we are going to be working very hard to make sure that all of our areas of jurisdiction come back to us at the provincial level. And now I'll just kind of give the boring but very important part of the Constitution that makes what she's doing and makes what Premier Lougheed did in 1972 in bringing in an Alberta Bill of Rights constitutional. It's constitutional authority. So most people recognize the British North America Act of 1867. Now it's called the Constitution Act of 1867. In Part 6 of that, under exclusive powers of provincial legislatures, Section 92, in each province, the legislature may exclusively, bold, underlined, exclusively, make laws in relation to matters coming in within the classes of subject. Subsection 13, property and civil rights in the province. It couldn't be any more clear than this. Historically, we can go back and understand in September 1st, 1905, when we became a province, that we were sparsely populated, and probably the government of the day was happy to have their hand held by the federal government in many regards. And unfortunately, we didn't stand up as a province, and I don't think any other province really did, other than the original ones, to stand their ground. And so we've lost rights that we actually had back to the English Bill of Rights, the 1600s, where we actually had, and still part of our unwritten constitution, our common law, as it were, the right to bear arms. So the Premier is absolutely on spot, on point. We can do this. She recognizes it. And it's even though the feds have passed criminal laws, which is part of their constitutional authority, rights always trump, and anything constitutional is supreme over any act of parliament or legislatures. So yes, they have authority over criminal law, but that doesn't mean that they can make all speech illegal. They can't, tell you that you can't walk on the street, or that you can't breathe air, or that you can't wear clothes, right? Those things would be absurd. Why? Because we do have rights. And, the province has the authority for property and civil rights. And probably the 1995 Firearms Act, because we didn't do anything about those rights. We didn't enshrine them in our legislation, our Bill of Rights, or a written Alberta Constitution, is that the courts saw that, okay, they did something, and there's really no basis, because there was nothing written for the province to control firearms use and ownership. So she's right on, and we need to take back this authority and other authorities. And property, if you think about it, if they can take your guns, they can take anything that you have. So firearms are a subset of property, and she's doing the right thing.
Okay, so let me play devil's advocate here. Obviously, we support you. The NFA supports you. In fact, at TACOM in Ontario, we had a couple of guys wearing cowboy hats to show solidarity with you guys, to bring attention to it, right? Even down east. Yeah, right? Dwayne, put your hat on just for a second.
So I'm not wearing my black hat tonight because of I'm not wearing my black hat because the filter messes it up, and it just doesn't look right. But trust me, I have my black hat.
I'm a proud Albertan. I'm, born and raised in rural Alberta, so I'm good to go with all of this. But play devil's advocate here. Trudeau and the federal government are not going to look and go, oh, the 1800s. Oh, okay, so you guys have something from or even English common law going all the way back to the 1600s. Oh, well, we'll respect that, and we'll just let Alberta do whatever they want to do. So what is going to go into action here if the Bill of Rights does get passed and that line does get added into the amendment? Where do we go from there? Where is it that we can fight back towards Ottawa? What can we do there? How will it work?
Well, we'll have to see what the government actually comes out with the firearms rights. And we are encouraging a comprehensive right that, can cover off a lot of the things that are ridiculously over-regulated right now, like storage, transfer, ownership. You can't take your handgun to your farm and shoot it. It's only an authorized range, right? But yet fire or handguns have a smaller template than most rifles, right? There's so many things, have a trigger lock in a plastic case locked, but so many things that, like my gunsmith is closer to me than my range. And yet I need an authority to transfer for that. So we need a comprehensive right that covers off things. If it's not comprehensive, then there's going to be a lot of shuffling back and forth between the Criminal Code, the Firearms Act. We have, and we're very blessed to have, and wisdom of the government to bring in our own Chief Firearms Officer, Dr. Bryant. So Dr. Bryant, my recommendation was to her, and I guess I should say ours, and to the government, is that CFO covers both programs, because some people are still going to want to stay in the federal program. If you are an armed guard, you will have to stay in the federal program because it's federally regulated. If you ever think that you might want to sell something outside the province or move outside the province, you're going to have to stay in the federal program. However, if you think about, the firewall letter that was written, decades ago by Prime Minister Harper and Dr. Morton, this Bill of Rights, and specifically firearms rights, becomes a personal and individual firewall to protect the citizen against essentially all levels of government, but mostly the federal.
So some things I'd like to add to that too. You're talking about the 1995 Act, and what I've found over the years is the 1995 to 1998 Firearms Act that the Liberals introduced is what I would call mischievous law. And law should be introduced into our society to cure an ill or criminal society, not create mischievous crimes. And that's what the Firearms Act has currently done. It's created mischievous administrative crimes, such as the fact that you have to carry your RPAL with you out to the range and your registration for your handguns out to the range. And one little slip of messing up, you leave that one little piece of paper at home and you could be incarcerated. So with a lot of this that you guys are moving towards with property rights and the Bill of Rights, is there any anything you think in there that could address some of that?
Well, like as I was trying to describe, that it can't be just a one line, right to own arms or right to bear arms. It needs to have a subset. So in our recommendation, we would have rights of storage. If you think about it, like obviously nobody wants, loaded firearms hanging around when you've got children in the house, right? But there are negligent homicide and all kinds of laws that cover those types of things. And as you said, we're creating mischievous crimes. I call them gotcha crimes. It's like doing 52 in a 50 zone, right? Gotcha, here's your ticket. But this is more than a ticket, right? When they can come into your house, right? And catch you, or if you're driving and you consent to a search and all of a sudden, you forgot, you put the lock on, but you actually didn't lock it. Or you forgot to put the lock on the trigger, but you have it on the case, right? You're gonna hang high, and it's gonna cost you. So we're pushing for comprehensive rights, like display in your home, demonstration. So that would cover what happens at firearms exhibitions, right, or other events. So I think the details of it need to be covered, and if we don't, it will potentially put people in a situation where they don't know what they can actually do.
Right.
Well, and our other director, Director Lundgaard, our other Alberta director, actually talks about this as victimless crimes, and it's a matter of attrition, right? They don't want people to get interested, involved, or continue on with firearms and owning firearms. I've had American friends that have come up here and, oh, you're a gun guy, cool, great, let's do this, and then they move up here and they look at all of the paperwork they have to go through. They look at all of the risks. Oh my God, if I don't store it such and such a way, if I don't transport it such and such a way. Oh, hell, never mind. I just won't bother. I'll just use yours when we go out to the range, right? And it's like that's kind of their end goal with the federal government, right? I mean, same right down to the handgun freeze. They're hoping that we'll all go, oh, okay, all right, well, you'll take them someday. Same with the assault style rifle ban, right? Oh, well, we'll all just kind of slowly fade away and just kind of let them have them over time. And one thing that I think is really interesting is if Alberta creates a bastion where that doesn't happen, where that doesn't occur, well, frankly, I think that a lot of people will move to Alberta if we change things, the right type of people, and they can all move to Edmonton so that we can finally dilute the red freaking vote up there. I don't know what's going on up there, what's in the water up there, but it is one of those things where Alberta is going to lead the way for this. So if you're somebody in Ontario, if you're somebody in BC that's complaining about or even downplaying this, well, get it done for yourself. Get out there. I mean, for example, we had one guy, and I'm wearing a funny hat too today, whatever they want to call it, but we had somebody from down east go, what's a bunch of guys in funny looking hats going to do, right? Well, what are you going to do? What are we going to do? Well, what we're going to do is we're going to show up and we're going to make the numbers, like Mitch said. So anyways,
I think, and Nathaniel as well, and one of the things I didn't touch on is in the right, we've recommended describe exactly what we can have as a right. So I think everybody's talked about it in the past, is like we have empirical measurements that we can use, lengths of guns, calibers, magazine capacities, all that. You can list those things that we can have by right, and then anything else by license. So, we can take it back to pre-1995 or whatever the government decides makes sense, or back to the Harper days or whatever. But it's very simple to do, and then we're not subject to arbitrary decisions by a police force of what's good or bad, or oh, it's scary, it's black. We've seen, you know, all kinds of questionable decisions. I mean, all firearms, you know, are you know, have a potential danger to them, and I think owners in Canada are very cognizant of that and go through training, and they act responsibly. Criminals are never going to act responsibly, so why would you limit firearms based on law-abiding citizens? You know.
Yeah, absolutely. So before we go any further, actually, we have a cut here of Danielle Smith's address that is making all of these crazy political waves. I'd like to play it here so that we can actually break it down. So I'm going to fire it up here right now.
My fellow Albertans, I have some exciting news to share with you today about an important step forward for our province in protecting the rights and freedoms that are central to our identity as Albertans. In a few weeks' time, our UCP government will be introducing legislation to amend and strengthen the Alberta Bill of Rights, a document that has stood as a safeguard for our civil liberties and freedoms for decades. Since its inception, the Alberta Bill of Rights has been a reflection of our shared values, recognizing the fundamental rights and freedoms that are essential to a free and democratic society. It enshrines the principles that every Albertan holds dear: freedom of speech, freedom of religion, and the right to equality before the law, among other fundamental rights. It serves much like a constitutional document in that it ensures all provincial laws and policies must align with those listed rights and freedoms. Now, the Bill of Rights has served its purpose well over the years, but as our society evolves, so too must our laws to ensure our rights and freedoms remain properly protected in an ever-changing world. The amended Bill of Rights will also strengthen property rights, another cornerstone of living in a free and democratic society. The amendments will ensure that no Albertan can be deprived of their property without due process of law and just compensation. This is a reaffirmation of your right to own and enjoy the property that you've worked so hard for. There will also be an amendment to make clear that in Alberta, we respect the right of individuals to legally acquire, keep, and safely use firearms. For many Albertans, firearms are critical to their livelihood and way of life. I personally feel that law-abiding firearms owners have been unfairly targeted by our federal government for decades, and it is my hope that these amendments will better protect the rights of our farmers, ranchers, hunters, and sport enthusiasts going forward. I'd like to share that in my view, these amendments to the Bill of Rights are not just legal changes. They are a reaffirmation of the values that make Alberta one of the freest jurisdictions on earth. They are about protecting our rights, our freedoms, and our way of life. We are sending a clear message that in Alberta, the rights of individuals are paramount, and that government must respect those rights at every turn. As your Premier, it is my duty and my honor to stand up for your rights. I believe deeply in the principles of individual freedom and personal responsibility that have guided and built this province for generations. Thank you for your trust and commitment to the values that make Alberta the amazing province and beacon of freedom we have become in the world.
I think one of the things that we need to worry about is it's not a sure thing, and a lot of people can attest. I know that in Edmonton and in Calgary especially, because I was the one that was distributing them, we've created a flyer to get people to the UCP AGM on November 1st and 2nd, get them there so that they can vote for this Bill of Rights and they can keep Danielle Smith where she needs to be. Do you guys want to speak to that at all?
If Albertans don't show up at the AGM on November the 1st and 2nd and overwhelmingly vote by 5,000, 6,000, 7,000 people in that room, we're hooped. The federal government does not trust Canadians. They never have, and they never will. But Albertans can make sure that their provincial government, at this point led by Danielle Smith, will feel the heat of the fire if they don't do what we want. And people talk about the firearms laws from 92 right the way through to 98. This goes all the way back to 1976, which is why the National Firearms Association was started by Dave Tomlinson and Ray Laycock. This was Trudeau Sr., when he was the Justice Minister, found out that the Canadian population was better armed than the Canadian forces. So he decided to make the old FN rifle restricted, and then he made it prohibited. Here we are, 60 years later, we have Trudeau Jr. So November 1st and 2nd, show up, vote, or shut up.
And I just want to throw a shout out to the Inglewood Gun Shop, the Shooting Edge, and the Calgary Shooting Center. They are distributing our pamphlets for us. Thank you very much, guys. Really appreciate it. And we will be having them at multiple different events, as well as at the Stony Plain Gun Show here too. Yeah, no, we are trying to get the word out here. We've been contacting people. We've been doing email campaigns, pamphlet campaigns, word of mouth campaigns, videos, the whole 9 yards. So now we're talking about showing up. There's other people that are going to be showing up as well that are against this, right? So let's touch on that.
Okay, so I'll run with that one for a bit. And this is going to be my message to Albertans and every gun owner in this province, especially UCP members. We need you to show up to the UCP AGM November 1st and 2nd. From what we understand, there's another group out there called the 1905 Committee that is seriously threatening Danielle Smith's existence. There's been stories broken on her about the 1905 Committee by the Counter Signal and Ian Bext. And from what I understand, what I'm hearing, there's been some legalities involved in that to try and keep him quiet about it. But from what I understand about the 1905 Committee is it's get some socialist votes out there, from what I'm hearing, some socialist voters to purchase tickets and come to this UCP AGM and vote Danielle Smith out of power. So Mitch, I think you know a little bit about that, and I wouldn't mind hearing from you on that matter, and go from there.
If we believe, like I do, that this bill is actually tied to the Premier, then if she does not win at this AGM, then we may not see this. And I think there's been a lot of work going to this, and I think, like every opportunity, they just don't. It may not be there next time or next go around because no one else is doing this. There is another government in North America that's acknowledging gun rights, and anywhere, I mean, Europeans are still using gun rights country by country by country. Australia, New Zealand, they've all lost their gun right. So I think we should pay attention to what's going on here. It's a legitimate threat. Not only, and they're doing it by, it's death by 1,000 cuts. 10-shot cuts that are in semi-automatic .22s are no longer allowed. And that's going to make the most popular .22 we've ever sold is the 10.22 Eagle. They're going to have to make a second clip for that. When that happens, the gun becomes obsolete. And it's just been one thing after another after another. So we have to be cognizant of the fact that we can actually make a difference. And now's the time to show up. And unfortunately, from what I'm seeing, we're going to have to keep showing up for a long time to make sure that we protect the rights. Because freedom, I mean, this is a cliche, but freedom isn't free. We've been treating it like it's been free. What I'm seeing before, when we had government that we could trust, and I think the most important part is we had media that was working to expose things. And since the Liberal government bought the media, we no longer have that. So people no longer have somebody doing the work to counteract government. So I think that's something that's also very important. So again, I can't top what Ian said, but I will reiterate, what we need to do is we need to show up, or basically can't complain about what the results are going to be.
And that's
every day gun counter. I'm a gun dealer here. I sell guns as well. I'm in the sporting goods business. It's a part of my business. I hear it every day at the gun counter. Oh, you're going to take my guns. That's the line in the sand that I won't let people cross. This is a much easier way to deal with this. Show up at the AGM, spend $199, spend the day, and you know what? You're going to see something that you're going to appreciate. You're going to understand how and why participation in politics is very important.
This is one of the most important times we need as Albertans to go to the AGM, because if we don't, we're not going to get the freedoms that we're asking for. And we know the current Liberal government, supported by the NDP, they want total control. And we know that when Rachel Notley was in, it was the same thing. She was applying and helping the federal government work against Albertans. And this is an important time in our history that if we don't stand up, we could end up being servants of the federal government.
I think leadership is important. People recognize that, you know, certainly Churchill and other leaders. She's standing up on so many issues, but as this audience is focused on firearms, we need to ask ourselves, who's going to stand behind her? Because nobody else is even talking about this in any government around the world that I know of. And so we need to support her. I recommend everybody send emails of support to her office and to their MLA's office. Tell them what you want. Tell them that you're going to be there on November 1st and 2nd. Because if we can't support our leaders that are supporting us, then what do we expect?
So we've had a couple of people reach out too as well. There's a couple of people like in the Red Deer area that would said, you know, it's financially, I can't go financially. I cannot make it. I can't. It's a really, really rough time for me right now. I cannot afford that. And then we've had other individuals that have contacted us and they're from other parts of Alberta going, I would love to be able to go, but it's too far of a drive. So if people want to sponsor people that can't go because of finances and are willing to sponsor them to go to vote for this, reach out to us. We have an email address set up for you guys, blackhatsab@gmail.com, info@nfa.ca. We're trying to get as many people there as we possibly can. And I'll pass it off to Ian because he wanted to say something.
Nathaniel.
Yes, sir.
If for whatever reason somebody can't make the AGM, they need to go to their local town halls that Danielle Smith and the UCP party have been holding and stand up and ask the question, and you'll get an answer. And if she can't answer it, she'll do one of two things. She'll either point the finger at the minister there with her, who will give you the answer, or she'll take your name, phone number, the question, and she'll get back to you in 2 days. So if you can't afford Red Deer at the Westerner, go to your town hall. There's one in Lacombe here in a couple of days. I believe there's also one in Red Deer. Find out when they are off the UCP website. Show up and ask the question, or tell her, hey, you're doing a great job. Keep going.
I'm just wondering if there are people who would like to donate that would help others to be able to go to the AGM. And that's kind of the position I'm looking at.
And you know, that might actually be better to do it as a Black Hats initiative, in my opinion. You know, to direct it to you guys so that there's no complications there. But yeah, no, if people can help sponsor other people to get there, I mean, we can definitely make the connections for sure. So we'll kind of keep an eye on that. Another thing too, you were mentioning going to UCP conventions. Wear a black hat. Wear a black hat to show your solidarity. We have people that are doing shows across Canada now wearing black cowboy hats. I'm sure our Quebec director, who just came out here last summer and loved it, was walking around everywhere. It looks like Yellowstone. Everything out here looks like Yellowstone. Losing his mind because he saw Sage. I wish he would move out here. It would be a blast to have him out here, but we also need a Quebec director that's, you know, has the right mind. There's not a lot of them out there that have the right attitude. But if you wear a black hat, it shows solidarity with the movement. You don't have to get up and be boisterous. You just have to wear a black hat. People know where you stand. And not only that, but at the November 1st, November 2nd AGM, you'll know who your friends are. You'll know why they're there, right? I think it's a fantastic initiative. I think it's a fantastic initiative to have everybody wearing black hats. I was talking to the guys from the Guns of the Golden West at a gun show the other day about the Black Hats initiative, and they were all on board. They loved it. They're all going to be wearing their black hats every time they go somewhere.
And that's my message to Albertans, you know, and our call out to you all. We need your help. We need you to get to that AGM. I understand it's painful. I understand it's a little expensive, but like Ian said, we really need people to stand behind Danielle Smith in this situation. And there are other organizations and parties at play here that are trying to take her out. And this is why we need every real Albertan conservative there to make this amendments to the Bill of Rights happen and support Danielle Smith on the matter. You know, I don't know what else we have to say about this.
I can add one thing, Dwayne, if you're okay. The price doubles on Tuesday. The early bird pricing is done Monday. On October 1st, the price will go from $199 to $400. So we encourage people to buy at half price and to get it done as fast as possible. We're flat out trying to get people to the AGM here. I'm on it basically all day for the next 3-4 days to try and win this. So please be aware the price is going to double. You still buy a ticket after that, but it's going to be $400 instead of $200. And that's a big difference. So, and we're also hoping to sell out this hall before the end of the month, actually, to tell you the truth. And that would be a great big win for us.
And back to the donations, like Nathaniel said, I think we'd rather pass that off to you guys through the Black Hats. If any donations came in, I'd encourage anyone to make them to the Black Hats. There's no sense the NFA getting involved and being the middleman. And, you know, if the Black Hats can do anything, like you said, through donations and help people get there, we'll leave that up to you guys. So
I think you can also contact your local UCP constituency association. Some of them have set aside funds to get people to the AGM, just like Mitch's CA. So if you know somebody who's interested in the UCP, talk to them and they can point you in the right direction. There's lots of ways people can be helped.
We've also had people reach out to us and they said, okay, the AGM is 1st and 2nd. Which day is the day of the vote? I only have a day. Which day do I come? So the 2nd. Okay. So if anything, show up on the 2nd.
And we're also proposing from the provincial board, we're also going to try to get this put on the floor so the members can vote on the actual Bill of Rights in its entirety. So that's going to be happening sometimes, from what I understand, sometime at 10:30, 11 o'clock in the morning.
Okay. So, and another thing too about, so to that point as well, the Bill of Rights now has 22 clauses in it, or 22 amendments.
Yeah.
Will they all be passed completely together, or will it be one at a time? Or is that still up for debate as well?
It's still up for debate.
Okay. Okay.
But what we did was we presented to the provincial UCP board, and we presented to the provincial UCP board about 3 weeks ago, and we asked them to pass the Bill of Rights verbatim, and they did, actually, unanimously. So now moving forward, now that it's going to be on the AGM floor, we're going to put it to the members, or try to put it to the members. We believe that our board will follow through with that. So the people that are coming to the AGM will also get to support it that way. Not only will they get to do votes on members, UCP members, but and resolutions and things that will affect their daily lives, they'll also be able to vote in support of the Alberta Bill of Rights.
So let's have a look at this and let's say, okay, everything goes according to plan. November 2nd, we win. Everything goes through. Everything's fantastic. We go on from there. Where do you guys see this going? Where do you guys see this, the end game? It's a couple of years in the future. Everything's been passed. Everything's been changed. We've gotten everything we want. What do we have? What type of Alberta are we looking at?
Well, I think our work isn't done after this. If the bill does pass, Alberta has what we call an unwritten constitution. So there are documents that are considered part of the Constitution, such as the Bill of Rights, such as the Alberta Act, which is an enactment to the Constitution of Canada, basically our founding document, and many others. So formalizing a constitution through a constitutional conference would be like a next step, because right now, if they do pass the bill, a future government could amend or even repeal the bill. But if you have a constitution and you entrench it through referendum, it makes it much more difficult to do that. So there's many more things to do. Obviously, Canada Pension, all these types of individual firewalls for Albertans. So the fight doesn't end even if we're successful here. And there will be obviously litigation and, determinations by the courts. So, the fight won't end. Freedom isn't free, as Mitch said. And, we just can't rest on victories. We have to keep pushing forward and protect what we've got and get back what we've lost to the federal government in, you know, since we joined Confederation or became a province in 1905.
And to that point, I want to throw a story your way, because it came to me. I remembered this story here as you were talking there, and we're never going to be completely in the clear here in Alberta. But when Notley was running the first time, I was driving in my car, and a guy in Calgary, South Calgary, pulled up next to me. He had painted his truck orange. He had a fiberglass horse in the back, and he had NDP flags hanging off everything and a cowboy hat on. And he rolled down his window and he yelled to me, "Are you voting for Rachel? Are you voting for Rachel?" And I said, "No, I will never vote for her." And he's, "Well, why not? Why not?" I said, "Because I'm a gun owner. I would never vote for her. Never in a million. I'm a gun owner too." And I said, "Well, then you need to read about the person that you're promoting here." And he drove all over Calgary with that fiberglass, the painted orange fiberglass horse and all those NDP flags. And my God, I hope he feels foolish today. I hope he feels foolish today. When Rachel Notley was running against Danielle Smith there, we put out a bunch of her quotes. They didn't know, but I got a Rachel Notley door knocker that came to my door here, and I'm concerned about firearms. Please tell me your policies. Please tell me your policies. And then well, we can't tell you too much, but they texted me. So I had a hard copy, which is phenomenal. And we got anybody that was an NFA member to actually give us the hard copies of what she was saying and what they were, fully supporting the handgun ban, fully supporting any sort of pistol ban. Oh, you don't need 600 bullets to kill a moose, you know, a bunch of stuff like that we just proliferated, right? So these people, there's a lot of people in Alberta, they have no idea. We're dealing with Nenshi now. My God, God help Alberta, right? If he gets in. So this is going to continue on forever. And we can only hope that this will give us a foothold for our rights in Alberta. And my God, we're working hard on it. I know you guys are working hard on it. So if there's anything that we can say, it's get to this AGM and support Danielle Smith.
Yeah, she just publicly announced what she's going to do. So if that doesn't, get people to say, man, this is incredible. How can I help? Like, we need to get on board.
You're right, Scott. You're right, Scott. And like Nathaniel said earlier, she's the only premier that's come out in this country and been so bold to say what she's going to do, right? And the other premiers are sitting there, biting their fingernails, wondering, what they're going to do and just watching her. And we know Saskatchewan follows along very closely. We see Saskatchewan and Alberta kind of go hand in hand, side by side. But, man, I'm telling you, these guys like Ford, they really got to start moving forward as well. And, to our Ontario followers and readers, when you're asking, what about Ontario and all that? Well, it starts with you. Get out there, get it done. A little bit to what Nathaniel said, what's this going to look like if everything goes our way? My personal opinion and my hope, and I do have strong faith right now in the federal movement with Pierre Poilievre. I think he's coming in no matter what in a year from now. And imagine the relationship between him and Danielle Smith in a year from now, and how much of a difference that can make for the rest of our country if Alberta gets this movement going, and then Saskatchewan follows suit, Northwest Territories, and Pierre Poilievre has mentioned many times that he would reverse Bill C-21, and he's talked about overhauling the Firearms Act, and I strongly recommend he does that, because back to what I was saying about mischievous law, the liberal laws are mischievous laws, and they do nothing but create paper criminals. And, to any city people who are watching this and are thinking some of us might be off our rocker with guns or anything like that, guns exist all throughout rural Canada. We've never been a problem. The problems with crazy people are always in your back alleys in the cities, and that's the part that the Liberal government just never wants to deal with. And that's where, again, we have to deal with real crimes rather than creating mischievous crimes. So evil people will find a weapon, whether it's a firearm. In the UK and other places in Europe, they're throwing acid in people's faces. In UK, they're starting to talk about restricting knives.
So you can take away all the firearms, but you can't take away the vehicle that runs over people on bridges. We've had it happen in Edmonton, right? So, you know, it's crazy to think that I should trust the government with my tax dollars and trust them with firearms. And yet me as a law-abiding citizen who have not given them any reason to distrust me, they won't trust me with firearms. I need to apply and have a license and wait 6 months or longer just to get approved. So we need to change the narrative where the government trusts its people instead of distrusting them.
Well, and the absolute hypocrisy of this federal government and their order in council is the fact that they based it all on the Nova Scotia mass casualty incident. And if you look at it, if you really look at the mass casualty incident, that was an individual who was banned from owning firearms. He had a violent past, and every gun that he had brought in from another country or had gotten by nefarious means. So if anything, everything that they've based their gun control on since 2020 has been based on the fact that gun control doesn't work. It didn't work in that situation, and it isn't working now. If you look at the crime stats right now, after they banned everything, I mean, they literally mystified guns. They've been talking about guns so much in Ottawa. They've mystified guns to gangbangers that now they have more guns than they know what to do with. 3D printing's now an issue. There's all these other things that have come into play, and they're just putting their heads in their sand and coming after us. So it's really important that people know that, acknowledge that, and run with that, right? When you have a conversation with an anti-gun or even somebody that's on the fence, there is so much ammunition, no pun intended, that we can use to defend ourselves against these sort of ideological conversations. All of the facts are on our side and all of the emotions are on theirs, right? And that's why it's amazing to see all of these, well, you know, Scott Moe, Danielle Smith, you'd mentioned Terry Bryant earlier, phenomenal, actually knows about guns. Can you imagine that? A CFO that knows about firearms, that has been involved in the firearms community for decades. That's the type of people that we need making firearms legislation. If firearms legislation needs to be made, it should be by an actual firearms expert and not somebody that's never even seen one before. I had to sit through all of the SecU and SecD meetings, watching all of the insanity, liquefying organs. AR-15s liquefy organs. A moose would be, I loved it, the 50 cal. A moose or an elk would be completely disintegrated if it was shot by a 50 cal. And then they brought in an expert that said, actually, that would probably be the cleanest kill ever. It's like a hot knife going through butter, and I'd be able to harvest all of the meat. And then all of the Liberals sat there stunned. A Quebec minister saying the fact that they can't believe that an SKS is still illegal in Canada because it has the same evil, deadly cartridge as an AK-47. But if you take an SKS round and you put it next to any hunting round, it's far smaller with far less velocity, et cetera, et cetera. We have the crazies running the whole party here.
Maybe they should start their own Black Hat group, put together their rights and freedoms packages, and go to their premier and start that process, and maybe the rest of Canada can get their act together as well.
Absolutely. So that's another thing too, is we've had a lot of individuals contact us and say, we would love something like this in Ontario. We'd love something like this in BC, mostly BC and Ontario. Saskatchewan, they're like, it's only a matter of time, right? That they're just going to see this happen and they're going to run with it. But we had a lot of people email us up and go, well, we don't have any clout. Who do we contact? How do we get this started? You know, these guys that are with the Black Hats in Alberta, they've been involved in politics for a long time. You've got MLAs and MPs and a lot of individuals that are showing support. So, you know, how did you guys start, and how did this happen? And tell the rest of Canada to get their shit together and do it themselves. And, you know, tell us your story about how this all started and how you've been able to actually influence public policy.
I would like to say this is how it started for us. You got to get involved with committees. You got to get involved with. We were part of the people that were. We were experiencing lockdowns and all manner of stuff. Our business was closed. My business was closed. There was demonstrations going on the street. People were carrying signs, but they were talking in an echo chamber. They were talking to themselves. So we decided to get involved with the actual government so that we could have a voice. So there's constituency associations in Alberta. There's 87 of them. So what we decided to do was become involved with our local constituency association, which is what I did. And I'm the chairman of mine. I'm the president of mine. And then we become part of a collective voice of 87 CA presidents, you know, of which 45 or 50 of them are UCP. So then you become a smaller group, and then you have a voice within government. So we have a group on my CA board of 30 people that got involved, and we decided that we were going to make a difference. So this is where this policy comes from. It comes from the policy from the UCP AGM, where we decided we were going to make a policy, and then we ended up here. So, and that's not the only policy we got. We got 2 or 3 of the policies that we made, this group made, are involved in Danielle Smith's address from last year's AGM. So basically, we decided that we were going to get involved with our politics at the local level and take care of our own backyard. And that's the best way to start. That's the only way to start, as far as I'm concerned.
That's exactly how you start.
Party, get going that way. Make some resolutions that are going to make a difference in your area. Propose them to the provincial party, and that's how things get done. And that's how we got this done, actually.
So another thing too is a lot of the individuals that have reached out to us and said it's impossible in my area. I live in Quebec, or I live in Ontario. I live outside of Toronto. I have no one here that is involved in politics that actually supports what I want to do with firearms here. There's no one here that supports this ideology. They're ideologically, I don't know, I guess you'd say compromised, right, to the left of it. But the idea is that politicians are just people that just have jobs. And if you show up with enough people to show them that there is interest and that will keep them in their seat, that's what you need to do. You need to network with yourselves. There's massive ranges down east, massive ranges down east. If you had a massive range like Silverdale, where they decided, you know what, we're going to have Black Hat Day at Silverdale, and everyone shows up and everybody signs a petition or something to take it to the local MP and push for this, then you yourselves could have a Black Hats movement as well, like this one, because then you'll get former MPs involved, you'll get MLAs involved.
But like I say, we're involved in local CA, so like in my CA, I probably have the largest grassroots movement in Canada, and we're talking to lots of people. We've got 200 people coming from a town of 6,000 people to the AGM already committed, and we're hoping for another 100 or 200 more by Monday.
So I'll add a little bit to what Mitch said there too, what you were talking about, Nathaniel, about how people get involved, and back to what you were talking about with Silverdale. Silverdale is the largest gun club in Ontario, from what I understand. So imagine if every member of Silverdale got involved and showed up at their constituency meeting and eventually took over that board, then you are that voice now of reasoning with your. In Alberta, we call it an MLA. In Ontario, you'd call it an MPP. But every member of that gun club could literally become the new constituency board. So that's how you start. That's how you get involved. Go to your local constituency meetings, start getting involved with those boards, start voicing your opinion, and eventually take it over and start a group like the Black Hats. That would be my message on that one.
And the other thing too is, no matter what province you're in, find whichever political party you favor, go to your local constituency association meeting, find out who the vice president of policy is, hand him a copy of our Bill of Rights and say, I want this policy amendment on the floor at our next AGM. What do I have to do? And that's how we got ours done. Show up on November 1st and 2nd and vote.
Wear your black hat.
Wear your black hat.
That's what I wanted to say. It's come up 2 or 3 times already. If you are coming to any political meeting wearing a black hat, if the ladies have an issue with their very expensive hairstyle, we recommend they wear a black fascinator. Then they'll be elegant as well as educated.
There you go. There you go. Dwayne, I'll leave the last word to you.
Okay, well, there you have it, folks. That's the Black Hats, and we hope to hear a lot more from you guys. It's a great initiative, and I'm glad to see something going on. And again, my message to the rest of Canadians out there is start a Black Hats group as well in every province. Let's make this thing happen.
Again, thanks a lot for joining us tonight, guys. Thank you, Dwayne, and we'll talk to you guys soon.
Thanks for having
guys.
us.
Thank you, NFA.
Appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to this episode of NFA Talk. Like and follow the NFA on social media and sign up to become a member.